So we've left Durrës behind. We've come an hour and a bit down the coast to Apollonia, which was slightly difficult to find because the critical sign that we needed had been knocked over. But anyway, we eventually got here. This is an ancient Roman site, Greco-Roman site, and it's full of school kids at the minute, so it could be a bit noisy in the background. And this monastery that we're in is in the centre of the old city. The monastery complex is really quite extensive, and it is a mixture of Greco-Roman stone, Greco-Roman pillars, Roman brick, and other bits and pieces all just stuck together. Now this dates back to 1200, and the ancient city of Apollonia I think was done and dusted by about 400 or 500. So these were old stones by the time they decided to reuse them, and it must have been a fabulously peaceful place because it's up on a hill, it's fully walled. Must have been great. And there are Roman bits of column, bits of carving, gold and silver encased icon. Right, so inside the church, which is now deserted with the kids that are on coach tour at the minute, obviously a cultural day out for local schools, is what I believe is called the icon of stasis, basically the altarpiece, which is covered in icons. Now, given the church dates back to the 1200s, I don't know how old these icons are, but they look pretty old, and the wood is certainly ancient. The carving is amazing, it really is. Beautiful work, really intricate carving. I don't know how well that will show up, but it's beautiful. And then of course further icons around the side, and it has a large dome which has had a painting in the middle where the paint's been scratched off, has gone. Not necessarily vandalism, as in the Middle Ages people believed that removing the eyes and bits of clothing etc. from the painted on saints had a restorative power and therefore could heal various ailments. So that could be an explanation. It's pretty tall, mind you. And the four main columns which support the arches, which then support the dome, are clearly Roman. Like we said outside, the building is a hodgepodge of stuff that's been stolen from the older site of Apollonia, because this is a church from the 1200s. Oh wow, Elizabeth just pointed out, which I walked past and missed. I don't know if you can see it, but tucked up in that corner, it's very dark, but there are still the painted pictures of saints. Funeral urn from the 2nd century BC. So Elizabeth has found some funerals patting a cat, except these cats are funerary lions, again from the 2nd and 3rd century BC, which was found in front of a tomb. They're made out of limestone, beautifully carved, and as Elizabeth was pointing out, it's got teeth, nostrils, and there's a pair of them. But Apollonia, fabulous name. Apollonia was a very important place. The Emperor Augustus, who I think wasn't he? Yeah, I think he was the first Roman emperor from memory. He came here to study philosophy, which gives you an idea of how important the place must have been. Unfortunately, it was on the sea, but the bay silted up, and then there was an earthquake. And that, sadly, I think that's about 4th century AD, sadly that was the end of Apollonia, apart from the monastery, which we just seen. And now we're into the jars, which are massive. Give you an idea of scale. Elizabeth standing next to that one. The pottery skills to make something like that is phenomenal, isn't it? To keep that smooth over that size is astonishing. And then a row of headless statues. And it just gets better and better. Here we've got a 4th century Illyrian shield, and I don't know if the camera will pick this up. Let me try and get you down and see if it will. In the centre boss is a face with curly hair sticking its tongue out. Amazing, next to a Macedonian helmet from the same period. So presumably the sort of thing that Alexander the Great would have done. So all we can hear now is birds. Lovely. We're now in the long building across from the church, which was used as a refectory, but even earlier than that as a basilica apparently. Now some of the pots that we saw inside would have been in these holes, keeping wine and olive oil and things. And the floor, I don't know how well that'll show up, the floor has a mosaic with a hunting scene on the right hand side with the deer, various types. Oh, and a stray dog has come in. I told it to come inside and sit in the shade, and it's listened. And then the walls are covered in 14th century paintings, murals. Obviously they're a bit worse for wear, having survived all that amount of time, and apparently this complex was damaged in the Second World War. But you can make some things out. It must be a very impressive building when this is all new and freshly painted. Right, the centre of the Roman section is the Forum, obviously. In fact, it's marked as Agora Forum because it must have been Hellenistic before the Romans, which centred around this building and two crossing streets. And then beyond that, there's the remains of an amphitheatre, which we'll have a look at in a second, and a library. So I was wrong. I assumed this was going to be an amphitheatre when I looked at the diagram at the entrance, but it's not. It's an Odeon. So it was an enclosed theatre, a small enclosed theatre, which is no doubt where our Odeon cinema name came from. So there you go. I don't know how many people it sits. You reckon about 600. Perfectly believable looking at it. So there you go, an inside theatre. So the entire length of this wall, which has been used to prop up the natural wall behind it, every niche along here contains statues. So it was a very impressive town. No wonder the emperor was quite happy to come here and study.